Daniel Parker was already late for work when he squeezed into the overcrowded subway. He held his briefcase tight, pushed forward, and tried not to think about the rent overdue notice sitting on his kitchen table. When the train doors opened, he rushed out with a tidal wave of commuters, not realizing the most important thing he owned had slipped from his pocket. It wasn't until he reached the office lobby, panting and sweaty, that he checked his pockets and froze. His wallet was gone. Inside that wallet was his ID, cards, and the $1,200 cash he had saved to pay rent by that very evening. Without it, he'd lose his apartment. He retraced every step, back to the station, security office, lost and found, nothing. No wallet, no hope, no answers. What Daniel didn't know was that someone had found it. Someone who had nothing. Someone who would change his life in ways he never expected. By late afternoon, Daniel sat on his couch, exhausted and defeated. Losing the wallet felt like losing his future. Then, a knock at the door. Not a loud knock, a gentle one, hesitating, almost unsure. Daniel opened the door and blinked. Standing there was a thin man, clothes worn from weather and time, holding something in his hand. A wallet. "Is this yours?" the man asked, breathing heavily as if he'd walked a long distance. Daniel snatched it, opened it fast. Everything was inside. Every card, every dollar. The man introduced himself softly. "My name's Jaron. I saw it fall at the station." He explained he had tried to return it immediately and walked nearly 5 miles to get there. When Daniel tried to hand him money in gratitude, Jaron held up a hand. "I didn't bring it back for money." That sentence hit Daniel deeper than he expected. Daniel insisted Jaron come inside for water. His hands shook slightly as he lifted the glass. It was clear he hadn't eaten anything real in days. Daniel finally asked the question burning in his mind. Why walk all this way to return it? You could have kept everything. Jaron looked at the floor. He explained he once had a stable life, a warehouse job, a small apartment, a sister he adored. But after his mother died, everything unraveled. Job loss, depression, eviction. Within months, he was sleeping under bridges or near the subway entrance. "I lost everything," he said quietly, "but I didn't lose who I am." Those words stayed in Daniel's mind long after Jaron left. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. His wallet had been returned by someone with nothing. Someone who had walked miles just to do the right thing. He knew he couldn't let the story end there. Not for Jaron. Not for a man who showed more integrity than people who had everything. The next morning, Daniel woke with a mission. He couldn't stop thinking about Jaron, a man who chose honesty over survival, who had no home yet walked miles to return someone else's money. Daniel grabbed a jacket, bought breakfast at a cafe, and went searching. He checked near the station first. Nothing. Under the overpass, still nothing. Finally, outside a small bakery, he saw him. Jaron sat against a wall, hands tucked under his arms for warmth. Daniel approached quietly and handed him a warm breakfast bag. Jaron looked surprised, almost embarrassed. Daniel sat beside him, ignoring the stares of people walking by. "I want to help," he said. "Not because you returned my wallet, but because someone should have helped you long before this." Jaron didn't know what to say. For the first time in a long while, someone treated him like a human being, not a problem to be ignored. That night, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that more people needed to know Jaron's story. So he typed it up, every detail, every emotion, and posted it on his social media. No embellishments, just the truth. A homeless man walked 5 miles to return a wallet full of cash he could have kept. Daniel went to sleep. The next morning, his phone was exploding. Thousands of likes, thousands of shares, hundreds of comments asking, "Who is this man? Where can we help? How can we support him?" Jaron's story went viral overnight. People were touched by his honesty, his dignity, his strength. By noon, Daniel received messages from employers offering interviews, a shelter with an open bed, volunteers offering clothing, a nonprofit offering transportation passes. Daniel realized something powerful. Jaron didn't need charity, he needed a chance. And suddenly, the world wanted to give him one. Daniel met Jaron again that afternoon, this time with good news. He told him about the job offers, real companies that read the story and wanted to give Jaron a fair shot. Jaron blinked, overwhelmed. "People really want to hire me?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, and that's not all. A shelter has a room for you, tonight." Jaron lowered his head, wiping his eyes with the back of his sleeve, not out of weakness, but relief. For the first time in years, someone believed in him. They spent the afternoon gathering clothes and shaving supplies from local donors. People recognized Jaron from the post and wished him luck. He smiled shyly each time. He wasn't used to kindness. That night, as he opened the door to his new room, a clean bed, warm walls, a small desk, he whispered, "I forgot what a home feels like." 2 days later, Daniel accompanied Jaron to his first job interview, a warehouse supervisor who admired Jaron's honesty. Jaron wore donated clothes, a clean shirt, slacks, and shoes that actually fit him. He stood straighter than usual, nervous but hopeful. Inside the office, the manager asked, "Why should we hire you?" Jaron didn't rehearse. He didn't pretend. He simply said, "Because when I had nothing, I still chose to do the right thing." The manager leaned back, impressed. After a few more questions, he extended his hand. "Welcome to the team." Jaron stepped outside and burst into tears, relief, gratitude, disbelief, all mixing into one. Daniel hugged him, proud. The transformation had begun. That night, Jaron slept in his shelter bed with his first work uniform folded neatly beside him. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. Tomorrow was going to be better than today. Weeks passed, and Jaron adapted quickly to his new life. He arrived early, stayed late, and worked harder than anyone. Coworkers respected him. Managers trusted him. Every paycheck was a victory. Every day without cold pavement was a blessing. But there was still one part of his past he couldn't face: his sister. They hadn't spoken in years, not since he disappeared from her life without a word. One evening, Daniel asked him gently, "Do you want to see her again?" Jaron hesitated. "I don't know if she'd forgive me." Daniel smiled. "You didn't steal my wallet when you could have. You walked miles to return it. You deserve a second chance, too." The next day, Jaron agreed. Together, they looked up her address. She lived only 2 towns away. Jaron held the paper with shaking hands, hope and fear wrestling inside him. What he didn't know was that his sister had been searching for him, too. The drive to his sister's house was silent. Jaron stared out the window, hands trembling. When they pulled up to a small blue house, he froze. "I can't do this," he whispered. "What if she hates me?" Daniel rested a hand on his shoulder. "She won't." Jaron took a deep breath, walked to the door, and knocked. Footsteps. The door opened. His sister stood there, older, tired, but unmistakably her. She stared at him for a long moment, eyes wide. Then tears filled her eyes. "Jaron?" she whispered. He nodded. She threw her arms around him, sobbing into his shoulder. "I thought you were dead. I looked everywhere. Where did you go?" Jaron broke down. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She pulled back, wiped his tears, and said, "You came back. That's what matters." Daniel watched from the car, smiling. This, more than any viral post, was the real miracle. After reuniting with his sister, Jaron's life changed even faster. She invited him for dinner weekly, helped him rebuild documents he'd lost, and reminded him that he still had family. Daniel stayed a close friend, supporting him quietly from a distance. People from the viral post continued sending kind messages, encouragement, congratulations, even donations. But Jaron politely declined most. "I want to stand on my own," he said. Months later, he saved enough to rent a small studio. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. He placed his work badge on the nightstand, his new house keys on a hook by the door, and smiled. He had gone from sleeping on concrete to locking his own front door, from invisible to valued, from lost to found. And it all began with a wallet in the subway and a man who believed in doing the right thing, even when he had nothing. Some stories aren't about miracles. They're about choices. And Jaron's choice changed his entire life.